Who let them in? That's what someone whispered right as two little black girls, hair in tight braids, shoes caked with mud, showed up at a Millionaires' Thanksgiving dinner, and yeah, they were carrying a white baby in a yellow blanket. The whole room kind of froze. Somebody's fork actually hit the plate. You ever have a night start so weird, you know you're not getting out of it unchanged? That was this one. The Harrington house looked like something off a postcard, autumn leaves all over the lawn, the chandelier in the dining room was putting on a light show, and that big old oak table was set like royalty was coming for turkey and champagne. Cynthia Harrington, queen of this castle and queen of making sure everything stayed just so, was doing her last sweep, fixing a napkin here, a fork there, barely breathing, you know? She had 24 guests on the list tonight, all the usual Oakwood Heights power players, judges, doctors, a senator, people who wore their influence like perfume. Then, right as the caterers were fussing over mini crab cakes, the doorbell rang early. Richard, Cynthia's husband, muttered about timing, checked his tie, when it opened the door, and you could just tell he thought he was about to shake hands with the mayor or something. Nope. Two girls, maybe 10, standing side by side like they were bracing for a storm, shoes muddy, eyes way too tired for kids their age, and one of them holding a bundle. "We need help," the one on the left said, steady but shaking. The other girl, her sister, you could see it in their faces, whispered, "Please," and pulled back the blanket just enough to show a sleeping white baby, maybe a few months old, cheeks all rosy from the cold. Cynthia came up behind Richard, words dying in her mouth when she saw the scene. "I'm Nadia. This is Suzanne. This is Veronica. She's our sister." The air just went out of the hallway. Even the kitchen staff were poking their heads out to get a look. Nadia explained, "We walked 3 miles to get here. The lady at the gas station said important people live here, people who can help." Suzanne's voice broke a little when she added, "We can't let them separate us. They always separate families like ours." That line, I swear, you could feel it hit Cynthia right in the chest. She ushered the girls inside, ignoring Richard's shocked look, and hustled them into her husband's study just as headlights started flooding the driveway and the first guests stepped out in evening gowns and sharp suits. Richard, not quite sure what to do with 3 kids, awkwardly offered seats on the leather sofa. The baby started wailing. "She's hungry," Suzanne explained. Nadia pulled a crumpled letter from her pocket, handed it to Richard, and said, "This is why we came." He read, and his face changed. The letter was from their mother, Camilla Wells, the girl's nanny, written in a shaky hand. "If you're reading this, I'm likely dead. My daughters Nadia and Suzanne need protection. The baby, Veronica, is my employer's child. Her parents, the Crawfords, were murdered because Mr. Crawford found something at his company, Medicorp. Evidence is in a bank safety box, key sewn in Veronica's blanket. Please help them. Keep them together. They have no one else." Richard didn't get far before Cynthia knocked, stress painted all over her face, asking what in the world was happening. Richard handed her the letter. Cynthia read, crumbled into a chair, tears welling, then just nodded. Food first, questions later. She ducked out, leaving Richard with the girls. "When exactly did this happen? Where do you live?" Nadia and Suzanne started talking about living in Millfield, how their mom was the Crawfords' nanny, how their mom came home early, panicked, told them to run and to keep Veronica safe because the people who killed the Crawfords might come after them, too. Nadia said quietly, "Mama told us to meet her at Aunt Louisa's. But Aunt Louisa died last year. Mama was trying to protect us." Richard tried not to look gutted. Cynthia came back with sandwiches, fruit, a bottle for the baby, and a lawyer, Benny Chin, their trusted friend. He read the letter, eyebrows shooting up. "If this is true, these kids are in real danger. We can't call the police. Not yet." Susan piped up. "Mama said something about fake medicine. People were getting sicker, not better." Richard and Benny shared a look. Medicorp, the pharmaceutical giant, was already under suspicion for shady drug trials, but nothing had stuck. "If Crawford had proof, this could blow everything open," Benny said, just as a sharp knock hit the study door. Enter Senator Adam Wilson, slick as ever, poking around, sensing trouble, offering help that felt more like a threat. Cynthia jumped in, calling the girls her cousin's kids, and the senator left, not quite buying it. Benny was worried. Wilson sat on the Medicorp Regulation Committee, had connections. Richard decided, "We need to get that evidence, and fast." Right then, a police officer showed up, Officer Dawson, saying they'd gotten a report about missing children. Nadia's whole body tensed. Senator Wilson, lurking, watched with a little smirk. Richard, Cynthia, and Benny spun a story about family emergencies, and Benny got Judge Reynolds, a family court judge, on the phone. The officer was forced to leave the kids with the Harringtons, thanks to an emergency custody order. But the tension wouldn't quit. One guest collapsed in the dining room. Dr. Patel said it was a medical issue, but Richard suspected otherwise. The girls remembered their mother making them memorize batch numbers, 6 of them, tied to the supposedly life-saving drug Renovigen. Cynthia, quick on her feet, arranged for Benny's sister Angela, a pediatrician, to take the kids somewhere safe, while Benny and Richard plotted to retrieve the evidence from the bank. But someone was always watching. Richard's security chief Gabriel reported unmarked cars parked outside, and Benny realized the dinner party could be their cover. Richard coordinated a risky escape through the garage, but right before the plan could play out, everything changed. Cynthia got a text, supposedly from Richard, to move the kids right away. She grabbed the twins and the baby, slipped past security, disabled cameras, and disappeared in the family Range Rover. Richard had sent no such message. Betrayal? Desperation? He didn't know. When he finally found Cynthia's letter, hidden behind a painting in his study, the truth hit like a punch. Cynthia had once worked for Medicorp's predecessor. Years ago, she saw them cover up patient deaths, lost a baby herself because of a suppressed treatment, and lived with that guilt. "I can't fail these children like I failed our daughter," she wrote. She was taking the kids somewhere only Richard would know, the lakeside cabin where he'd proposed. Except Cynthia had stopped first at Angela's house for help, Veronica had a fever, and one of the twins was hurt. But Medicorp's people tracked them there. Angela managed to hide the kids in a basement storage room, uploading medical evidence to hospital servers, while Richard and Benny, racing north, called in every favor they had. As Angela whispered updates, you could hear men searching the house, footsteps overhead, the children's quiet breathing, the sense that time was running out. Police stormed the house minutes after the attackers, but Cynthia, Angela, the twins, and the baby were already gone, through a laundry chute to the garage, then out across the backyard in a car Cynthia must have stashed there earlier. A simple text later, "We're safe. Trust Judge Reynolds." Everything is in her email. "I love you." 3 days later, federal agents raided Medicorp. The news was everywhere: clinical trials falsified, executives arrested, Senator Wilson taken in for questioning. The evidence, pieced together from Cynthia, Angela, the twins, and those crucial batch numbers, was airtight. But the story didn't end there. Judge Reynolds told Richard the girls and the baby were safe, but with no relatives, they'd be split up in foster care. Richard and Cynthia had a choice. They'd been through hell, lost a child, carried scars nobody else could see, but now Nadia and Suzanne sat before them, tired, wary, hoping for something they'd never had. Richard knelt, looked them in the eye, and said, "A Harrington's word is unbreakable. We'll keep you together if you want to stay." Both girls smiled for the first time since they arrived. "Can we keep our mother's name?" Susan asked. "Always," Cynthia promised. Snow started to fall outside, the first flakes of winter, as the new family sat together, wrapped in the kind of silence that only comes after surviving a storm. Was it perfect? No, but it was real. And when all's said and done, sometimes family just finds you, even if it shows up in muddy shoes with a baby on Thanksgiving. So what do you think? Is justice just about punishing the bad guys, or about protecting the vulnerable, even when it costs us comfort, reputation, or control? Would you have opened your door? Drop your thoughts below, and let's talk about what really matters: right, wrong, and the lines we cross for the people who need us most.